Hi Homeworthy, I'm Sophie. Welcome to my house in London. I'm excited to show you around, so come on in.
To watch their full episode ad-free, scan the QR code on screen or click the join button below. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. I'm Allison Kenworthy, the founder of Homeworthy, and we take you inside the world's most beautifully decorated homes and introduce you to the brilliant people who live there.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Liz Lang. Welcome to Grey Gardens.
Click the join button below to access all of our latest episodes ad-free and watch extended cuts of this and other homes, opening the doors to new rooms and exclusive content featuring our beloved hosts.
I can't wait to see, I'm so excited.
And if you're looking to shop items inspired by this and other Homeworthy tastemakers, be sure to use the product links below or scan the QR code on screen to find fabulous furniture, coffee table books, and accessories that can transform your house into a home.
Hi, I'm Sophie Garland. I'm an interior designer and welcome to my home in London. So I got into interior design because my mother actually, growing up, she was an interior designer and we moved house a lot. We always made every house that we lived in really beautiful and fun and different. So I always loved that side of it. I actually didn't start as an interior designer. I was a teacher for a few years and then I moved over to interior design, trained, worked with another designer and then set up on my own a couple of years ago. So we moved to the area because we had lots of friends and family living here and we didn't look for that long. We knew that we wanted a house that we could make very open plan because we had one small child and then another one came along quite soon after we moved in. So we knew we wanted to open it out so that we felt like we could kind of be around the kids but weren't feeling like we were on top of them, so we could kind of be in the kitchen and they might be in the sitting room and we still sort of knew we weren't worried what they were doing, but we didn't sort of, we wanted to feel like we basically had space. And we moved from a much smaller house in South London up here to Northwest London. So here in the hallway, we started by putting this Hessian wallpaper, which runs the whole way up the house. And it's really lovely and just gives a kind of cozy texture in a place where I sometimes feel like the hallways can feel a bit cold and stark. So we really were keen to have this in here. We've got lots of art actually throughout the house. It's something that's quite important to us. And this is a picture by Layla Andrews. It was actually a wedding present to us. And it's just quite a fun, bold piece as you walk in the door, reflects quite nicely in the mirror. If you're in the living space, you can see it in the mirror, which is actually an antique mirror that was given to me by my mum. So she had that in one of her first houses. And then just above the radiator, just so we have a place to, I don't know, throw keys down and stuff when we walk in, we just upholstered a shelf in Schumacher dragon fabric. So here we're in the living space, so it's a double room. Here is, I would say, the main area that we sit in the evening, especially. We've got lots of art on the wall. These two pieces are by a friend of mine, Rose Electra Harris. She does beautiful, colourful screen prints and paintings, lots of pattern and flowers, so they're sort of perfect for our style throughout the house. All the furniture, actually, all the soft furniture, the sofas, the armchairs, was made specially for us, just so that we could get the right dimensions, the right style. So we've got our big sofa here is covered actually in a Romo fabric, so it's really good, really tough, very good price point. We just thought we're going to have kids jumping around on it. We didn't want it to feel too precious. And then some embroidered cushions from Susan DeLis and Kate Foreman, their fabrics. And then curtains here, which actually were the last thing to go into the room, I couldn't work out what curtains to put in. So we were probably here for about 9 months without anything, and it just makes such a big difference after we put them in. It just changed the entire space. This is from Penny Morrison, and then we've got our kidney sofa here covered in Famoy fabric with Clarence House, which is one of my favourite fabric designers. Cushions here, some cafe curtains just so we can't be seen in, and then an ottoman which is actually covered in a leopard print fabric. It was a fabric that my mum actually had left over and gave me. I love leopard print, so you'll see it kind of dotted around the house as we go. And then a cabinet that I found at Kempton Market. And then either side of the fireplace are 2 pictures which I love. I think it's Bernard Kathleen. And I basically have tried to, someone in my family has them, I've tried to find them. So I've been looking on eBay and setting up searches, and I found that quite recently on eBay and managed to get it sent from Japan, I think. On the fireplace, we have lots of things that we've kind of collected over time. So a vase that Freddie found in Italy at a market. And then these candles are by somebody, a really fantastic ceramicist in the area, actually, Bettina Ceramica. And I got those for my birthday last year. Love those. Then also actually this very sweet little pot by Freddie's cousin, Alice Garland. She makes very nice, pretty little ceramic pieces and vases and jugs. Here we've got an armchair from Six the Residence, I think it's called, and then another Clarence House cushion on top. A little side table, actually I bought that when I think I was a teenager in Morocco, and it's just followed me around everywhere. And then the lamps are from Pookie, and the lampshades are from Susan DeLis. Sadly, she doesn't make those anymore because I really love them. Then these sconces on the wall from a Danish brand that I was given. And then this large mirror I actually had made for the space. So then over here, like just a continuation of our living space. Both the rugs on the floor are Rose Uniac. And actually they took us a long time also to work out. We got different rugs that were kind of patterned, and we just felt like it was too much, and we wanted it to be quite calm and the same running through the 2 rooms. But I do think that they are so important, because before we just had the wood for a long time and we couldn't find it, and it sort of felt a bit like we were kind of in a pub with a long, big wooden floor. And then over here we've got 2 armchairs that I had made in one of my favourite fabrics, which is Kit Kemp for Christopher Farr. They just add a bit of boldness to the space. We obviously have this massive bookcase, so we kind of wanted this to feel like, although it's all the same space, like a slightly separate sitting area, almost a little bit like library-ish, although in reality we don't sit down and read a lot of books here. But so we had this big bookcase made by Blockhouse Build, and we painted the back in this bright green, which is verdigris from Farrow & Ball. And then the white is just a really pretty off-white that actually I've used on all the skirting and all the doors throughout the house, which is Pointing by Farrow & Ball, which is just quite a nice warm white that I find is really good for skirting, architraves, doorways. And then these 2 chairs are actually maybe one of my favourite things in the house, and we found them at Retruvius, which is quite nearby here, which is a wonderful antique vintage store. And although they are a tiny bit fragile for the space, and so the kids aren't really meant to sit on them too much, which can be a little bit difficult, but they go perfectly with this big painted picture that we've got here, which actually we found in New York when we both lived there. And here, a record player, which Jesse, my 6-year-old son, and Freddie love playing, and Jesse loves dancing around to it. And then I think the bookcase is maybe the main like focal point in the room. It's such a nice, when you walk in, I think you're kind of drawn to that, and it's nice kind of funneling you in to the view through to the garden. Throughout the house, I've got quite a few photographs by my godfather, who's a wonderful photographer, and he takes lots on his travels through India. So these are two very bright, bold pictures that I just think are lovely in this room, and kind of different colours than we've got everywhere else. They really stand out. So here is the main structural work that we did in the house. So this was all on one level up here. So we lowered the floor, and we also went out into the alleyway next to the house and did a side return. It just has made such a massive difference because obviously the ceilings are so much higher than they would have been. And also the height here is a lot higher than what we would have got if we had just continued the same level. It's also just like such a nice space because there is so much space for the kids to like run around. They have their cars and they can zoom around on them. And it just makes our life, I don't know, so much nicer and easier to have the kind of the width and the height and feel like we're really not on top of each other. So we put in this beautiful wooden floor from the Natural Wooden Floor Company in South London. And so this was an area that we used a lot of our budget on, actually, was getting a really fantastic company who also did the bookcase to make the kitchen for us. And that just has made such a difference, being able to get the sizes that we wanted, the height that we wanted, and just exactly, you know, somewhere to store everything, a pantry cupboard. And then obviously the granite was also a really important part of the kitchen for us to have this like beautiful green that works so well with the green of the cabinets. And actually recently we have got an artist, Eliza Downs, to create these really fun murals in next to the splashback of the oven that we just thought that it was kind of blank wall before, and that was actually, we didn't want to have the granite continuing the whole way across because it was quite, firstly it was a big expense, but also it was just like quite a lot as we've got this huge island of it. But then we just felt it just looked very blank and almost like we'd sort of made a mistake. So we got her to paint these patterns in here to just add a bit of something quirky to the room. These lights above the island are from Atelier Vime, I think that's how I say it, in France. And then we've obviously got this amazing Beata Hermann light hanging over the dining table. I think lighting is so important, especially in a kitchen, to make it feel less stark, having lots of lamps and hanging lights, everything at different levels. So we've got lamps all the way around. So we've got some antique lamps with Famoy lampshades over on the side table, and then a little lamp next to the armchair from Trove, which is a really fun sweet shop on Goldbourne Road. This area here is nice. We really wanted like a sitting area, somewhere to relax in the kitchen. We possibly actually, in hindsight, maybe want a bigger sitting area and might add to it later on. But this, has been so useful. Although we're right there next to the sitting room, it's just such a nice, easy spot to sit and relax in. Again, more photography from my godfather here and also here, which is one of my favorite photos of his. And then underneath it is actually a sculpture by my aunt, who is an artist called Edwina Sands. She does, and I'll show you throughout the house, I've got loads of prints and paintings of hers, but this is the only sculpture I've got, so I feel very lucky that I've got it. And it's actually on a turntable, so you can turn it. So if it was in the middle of the island, I'd be able to turn it around for whichever way we want it, which is quite clever. This is another painting, actually by my great aunt, Sarah Churchill, which is a very nice, peaceful beach scene. All of the hardware throughout the kitchen is from Corsten. It's just quite a lovely antique brass, and actually our switches throughout the house are from them as well. And it just is really nice. It kind of changes and ages over time, which was something very important to us, not to feel too kind of modern, because it is quite a modern space with lots of light and lots of glass. So we wanted, the hardware to be antique brass to kind of feel a bit more traditional and like it's been there for a bit longer. And then the taps are all from Perrin and Rowe, again, same antique brass. And then actually on the island, we've got lots of these high bowls darted around, which we've collected quite recently actually, my husband, who is a florist, he has a flower company called Freddie's Flowers, and he creates, he has subscription boxes of flowers that you get every week, but he's also started recently to create these beautiful arrangements using flower frogs. So he's collected lots of these over time. So recently we went to Morocco, we picked up this, and then this is from Henry Holland. We've got ones from Feldspar, Wonky Ware, and Bettina Ceramica, the same as the candles from earlier. And then over here, we've got our big dining table. We love having lots of people over, so it was important to us to have a big space that we could host. The dining chairs are from eBay, I think, actually. Yeah, a lot of haggling went into this, I remember, because she wouldn't haggle. So I kept trying to haggle with her from different accounts. And then eventually she just blocked the account, I remember. Then I had to buy them from someone else. But I did get them in the end, and they're beautiful chairs and really beautifully made. And they've got How London fabric cushions on them. When we moved in, we decided we wanted to do it all at once. We didn't want it to be a really long, drawn-out process. So we did all the building work, and whilst the building work was going on, I created the design plan. And so a big priority was, as well as opening it up, digging down, we wanted to have a really nice kitchen because we spend a lot of time in the kitchen. So we got a company called Blockhouse Build, who have amazing joiners, and they did a wonderful job on creating the bookcase that separates the two rooms and also the kitchen. That was I think the biggest priority budget-wise was to spend on the joinery in the kitchen and the bookcase. So they were the first priorities. So going upstairs, this is another eBay find, the wool runner. Took me quite a long time to find it. We actually originally painted the stairs this very dark green, which is studio green from Farrow & Ball, but it was all just too dark. So we've changed it to pointing and the colour pointing, and then the wool runner over the top. And then all the paintings up the stairs are actually oil paintings by my dad. So it's a really lovely place to have them. So I'm passing them every day up and down, and it's lovely that they're sort of all together and different places that he's been, different holidays that we've been on, or houses that we've lived in, or paintings of me or my mum. So it's a lovely memory to have. So this is my son Jesse's bedroom. We wanted it to feel very bright and fun for a child, but equally not be too childlike so that we didn't suddenly think at age 7 or 8 we had to redecorate the whole room. So we've just concentrated on adding lots of colour but not making it too babyish. So lots of the furniture here actually is found on eBay, Vinteria, vintage shops. We've got this, which arrived black, and we painted it in 2 blue tones. That was from Vinteria, I think. Above it is a painting by my aunt, Edwina Sands, which is just perfect for the room with the blues and the reds and the greens. Actually, this little stool here, which I love, is I found on eBay for £15 the other day. It's a vintage IKEA stool. And then we've got his big red bunk bed, which was something we were handed down from my brother, and we just painted it in Farrow & Ball in Carnadine. And then lots of just like fun cushions, a quilt that Freddie's mum made for him, some art on the wall from, it's a shop owned by Tabby Booth, the artist. Just some fun prints, and then some little reading lamps below on the bottom bunk and the top bunk from original BTC, which I love. These little plug-in lights, they're so easy. You don't have to think about rewiring or anything. They're perfect for the space. And then this is actually a picture by Jake Sutton that I was given for my christening. So it just thought it worked perfectly in here. Another of these Moroccan tables that follows me around. And then we've got this lamp, actually, I love this bobbin lamp we got quite recently, made by Thomas Vaynard, I think that's how I say his name, with a shade that is just from Sostren and green on the top. Another vintage find, we got this in an auction, this chair, and painted it dark blue and then recovered it in another Kit Kemp fabric for GP Baker. Bar, which used to be mine when I was younger. And then this desk is actually really cool. It's from Vinteria again, but it's an old Ministry of Defence desk from, I think, the 70s or the 80s, with like this kind of leather top. So I was really pleased when I found that. Curtains, which are actually my godmother, who lives in Oklahoma, has a fabric company where she's actually given me quite a lot of fabric for the house, but she also has a mattress ticking business. And she sent me over some of the mattress ticking that they use to make these curtains. The bookcase is from La Redoute, which was a really good find. They have some really great stuff if you can sift through lots and lots that they have. Just like a fun corkboard from just like natural cork, which has a lovely, although you can't see it because Jessie's stuck so much on it, it has a lovely pattern throughout it and really nice. And actually, in reality, maybe I should have done the entire wall in it. That would have been quite fun. Being an interior designer, it was quite nice doing it for myself because there are obviously lots of furniture, fabrics, colours that I've really wanted to try out but haven't necessarily had the projects that I could put them into. So I was able to do that here. And also I was a little bit less precious because being my own home, I sort of could be a bit freer about the things that I chose and not worry so much about whether they might be slightly wrong or I had to change them at a later date. So I think it was a really lovely experience doing it myself and also doing it alongside my husband Freddie, who also is quite creative, and so he loved being able to help me, and we very much did it together. And then in to the master bedroom, which is painted in setting plaster. It's actually gone through a couple of changes. Originally we did it in a pale yellow, which just didn't feel right. So then, we've done setting plaster, which is such a cozy colour. And then we've got more photos from my godfather, from his travels. And then this is, I think we bought this maybe 15 years ago from eBay for, I think it was £40. I just typed in red lacquer side table and that popped up. So we've still got that. And then a Matilda gold lamp we were given for a wedding present from some friends with a Joseph Frank fabricked shade on top. Over here, more of the same leopard print as downstairs on the ottoman, an armchair and a footstool. And I think actually this fabric originally came from my godmother in Oklahoma as well. And then, as did this fabric, she sent me tons. I asked her if she had any green linen, and she sent me tons and tons of this green linen to make these curtains. So that was very lucky. Pretty cafe curtains, which I think are really nice in a bedroom. I think they make it feel quite soft and peaceful. We've got the same dragon print that was downstairs on the shelf above the radiator. I covered in this chaise longue, which we actually found very randomly. We were on holiday in Suffolk and we just drove past a little auction house in the middle of nowhere, and I'd been wanting one of these and we found it for like £55. It was the first thing I'd ever bid on live in an auction, and I did get a little bit flustered, I have to say. And then some bedside tables, which my mum actually bought me years ago from Lots Road Auction House, with just Pookie lamps on top, then Beata Herman fabric on the headboard, which is lovely, and then quite dramatic amongst like quite calm kind of plain curtains. I guess this is quite dramatic as well, but it's quite like a dramatic focal point in the room. With the cushion is from Trove, London, the shop on Goulburn Road again. And then actually this picture took us a while to find because it was really hard to find something that was the right size and shape for the space. And we found this from a friend of mine's, has a gallery in South London called Blue Shop Gallery, which is a wonderful gallery that has lots of mainly up and coming artists, but also established artists, and such a range of mediums and styles that there's really something for everyone. And we found that there and felt very lucky when we found it because, it was really hard finding the right shape. And then this is one of my favorite pictures that my dad did. It's actually of my brother. We grew up for the first few years of our life in Devon, really, really rural Devon. And so it's a painting of him in the fields, which I love. And then this is something that we did when we came. So it was a spare room and you entered it from the hallway. So we put in these double doors because we felt like we didn't want a single door, we wanted bigger doors to make it feel a bit of a bigger, larger space, with these lovely ribbon handles, and then just goes into our walk-in wardrobe and then our bathroom. So we've got these like really long curtains, which the fabric is from the Cloth Shop, which is also nearby on Goulburn Road, which is a wonderful shop for they've got so much fabric, but a lot of it's quite inexpensive, so it's really achievable. And that was great for these, which we needed so much of. We've wallpapered the whole thing in Common Room Lucky Leaf wallpaper. And that was something I knew I wanted to wallpaper the bathroom, because I love wallpapering bathrooms. I just think it feels a lot cozier. They can often feel a bit stark with kind of hard surfaces. So we did wood on the floor, because previously we've had tiles, and I just wanted to try out wood again, just to make it feel unbathroomy, I guess. So the wallpaper, the wood, we've got a freestanding bath, which we painted in Farrow and Ball Red Earth, a really pretty blind from Penny Morrison, and then I think all the tiles are from Fired Earth, and then all of the taps and showers and everything all the sanitary ware is from the Cast Iron Bath Company. The lights in the ceiling from Burlington, just quite nice globe lights for bathrooms. And then on the floor, this also has been with me forever. Have absolutely no idea where I got it from, but just like a vintage Moroccan rug. My design style, and also actually my husband Freddie's, is very colourful, to have lots of pattern and colour in the house, make it feel very fun, very cosy. We're definitely not neutral, minimalist type of people. So there's a lot going on, but that being said, we definitely didn't want it ever to feel cluttered and chaotic. So there is a lot going on, but it's also quite thought through, and there's also a lot of space around everything. So up here, this had already been done, this kind of loft extension and little pod that was put on here, which was really lucky, I think, actually, because I'm not sure we had a full house renovation in us when we were living up here. We've got a little mirror here, which I love, which I found at somewhere called Seen by Chloe, which is a really fun vintage site. And then another Camilla Perkins picture. Again, it was a wedding present. And then this picture of a boat up here is actually something that Freddie, my husband, found again in Italy in a market, and he brought it back, and I remember he put it on, we had to check it in on eBay, on EasyJet, and it just completely smashed when it came out. We actually saw the luggage guys just chucking it on, even though we'd written fragile all over it, and it smashed everywhere. So we got the glazing redone. And then in here, we've got my daughter Sadie's bedroom. She is almost 3. And this has all been just like loads of like a vintage, I think it's an eBay desk, a vintage chair from somewhere called Soap and Salvation, which is a really great site. Just like loads of different vintage, quite a lot of mid-century actually furniture. A really sweet little rug that I found again on another vintage site. And then yellow curtains and blinds. I wanted it to be, these quite simple. They're from the Hackney Draper, this fabric is. It's a really nice, quite strong yellow with this pale green Celadon Edward Bulmer paint on the walls. And then we had this bed, because it is quite a small room, so to save space, we built the bed in under the window and then added the wardrobe here. And that, I think, is painted in Farrow & Ball's Dix Blue. And they've got one of my favourite things in the house, these little lion handles, which I love. And then also a sweet little bookcase in for her kind of little books and toys. Then the headboard is a really beautiful embroidered fabric from Liberty, London. Again, the idea in this room was to feel like it was a child's room, but it wasn't too baby-like in that we weren't going to have to redo it every few years. So I feel like this room, this will take her up to quite a high age. Another original BTC plug-in light. This cushion from Seraldo, and then actually this cushion she was given for her first birthday, I think, and it's from this amazing company in South Africa called the Big Little Store, and you can do names, you can do animals. I've just had some amazing animal ones made, and you can just give them any animal, however random, and they create the most beautiful cushions out of them. So that was quite a fun thing that we have. Again, she's got another cork board for all of her little artwork, and this little lamp I quite like. This is a vintage IKEA lamp that I found on eBay the other day, and yeah, just some shelves that we painted in, I think it's Radicchio by Farrow and Ball, just to have all of her little toys on. I guess this house feels particularly special compared to anywhere else we've lived because we've firstly done a big renovation on it. We actually lived upstairs in the loft for the entire time that it was being built downstairs, which I don't think we would do again. But it was like a great chance to see really how everything that was being put into the house and really manage the whole build, as well as obviously the design process afterwards. And it's the first house that we've had both our kids, and yeah, I think really like done it from scratch together. So it feels like a very special place to be and for them to grow up in. Thanks for coming Homeworthy. It's been lovely showing you around, and see you soon.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.